So I promise this is the last time you're going to hear from me tonight until we're upstairs in the bar for the after party. Well, everyone, I want to share one last and amazing moment with you. It is my honor tonight to share and introduce someone who has spent his career, and let's be honest, probably most of his free time, fighting for justice, elevating our community, and reminding all of us what we're going through with equal parts candor, clarity, and compassion. Charles Jung. Now, many of you already know Charles as a force, a Stanford Law graduate, a Duke magna cum laude alum, and a Harvard Kennedy Fellow with a Master's of Public Policy. In other words, yes, he's the overachiever your parents wanted all of us to be. Professionally, Charles is a celebrated civil rights and employment lawyer, a top 100 attorney for over a decade, someone who guides leaders through moments of crisis with trademark blend of strategic brilliance and authentic storytelling. His work spans civil rights, employment law, complex litigation, class actions, representing executives, founders, and workers alike, always with an eye towards justice and meaningful social change. But Charles isn't just a lawyer's lawyer. He's a builder of community. He has served as an AABA president. I don't know if you guys get the theme here tonight. Recently completed his term as the president of the Bar Association of San Francisco, executive director of AABA, and even a special deputy district attorney volunteering as a trial attorney. In addition, through the Charles and Melita Jung Charitable Foundation, Charles and his wife support low-income communities and direct legal service providers, ensuring that the promise of justice reaches those who need it most. And if you follow Charles on social media, you know that he somehow finds the time to keep us all informed about current events, always offering context, hope, and a sense of togetherness during times when the world feels anything but. It's like having a community-minded news anchor, except this one actually responds to your DMs. At his core, Charles is a passionate leader who refuses to let any of us look away from the challenges facing our communities. But he also refuses to let us face them alone. Tonight, we honor a lawyer, a leader, a storyteller, a mentor, a connector, an amazing friend, and truly a pillar of the Asian American bar. It is my great privilege to present the Dale Minami Impact Award to someone who embodies its purpose in every sense, someone whose impact reaches the courtroom, the community, and each one of us. Please join me in welcoming Charles to the stage.
Thanks, man. Thank you, Angel. That really was a very touching introduction, and it's been such an honor to watch Angel's leadership over the course of the years. And I know there's so many people in this room who deeply love and respect Angel. And I know there are one or two LAP fellows, lead fellows. Where are the fellows at? So let's give Angel a round of applause for her inspiring leadership. And Dale, it's such an honor to receive an award in your name. I remember in 2019 when I led this organization, what caused us the board to create this award is that we wanted future generations of lawyers to remember something simple but maybe easily forgotten. Impact is not applause. In fact, if you're making a real impact, what you might hear is something that's quite the opposite of applause. Impact happens when someone is willing to risk something that is personal in defense of principle. And our history here in San Francisco reminds us of an even deeper truth, that the Constitution does not defend itself. Lawyers do, judges do, and I'll just go off script here and just as an aside, one of the privileges of being the former president of the San Francisco Bar is you get to hear the stories of the brave men and women who wear the robes and sit on the bench and take the indignities every day, even the threats. And it is our job as lawyers, as legal professionals, to be their voice because they cannot defend themselves. It's up to us to defend them. And I implore each one of you, when you hear these attacks on our judiciary, on the rule of law, it is up to each one of you to stand together and vocalize and protect our judges. I'll say here, only 3.5 blocks from here, used to live right across the street from there, Harrison and 3rd Street. We're on 4th Street right now. 3.5 blocks from here, back in 1889, the San Francisco government issued a facially neutral fire law, safety law, that incidentally happened to have the impact of shutting down every Chinese laundry in this city. But miraculously, those who were able to exempt themselves from the application of this law happened not to be Chinese. It was some miracle that happened, some coincidence. But then courageous lawyers stood up, led by community members from the 6 companies in Chinatown, and they stood with a Chinese immigrant named Li Yik, the principal of a laundry facility named Yik Wo. And they didn't just win a case, they fought this case all the way to the US Supreme Court and forged the very meaning of the Equal Protection Clause. They proved that a law applied with an evil eye and an unequal hand is unconstitutional. And they secured the promise of equal treatment for all of us for generations to come. That happened right here in San Francisco. And I don't think I need to belabor the point that sometimes the truth is actively buried by those in power. And we've heard about the Korematsu case where in 1944, the Supreme Court failed Fred Korematsu. And I know Karen is with us here in the audience today. But we must remember why the court failed them. They failed because the federal government actively suppressed the truth. Intelligence agencies had confirmed that Japanese Americans pose no genuine threat to the United States. It was our own United States Solicitor General that buried those reports. He buried them. He hid them from the American people. He hid them from the courts. He chose to protect the institution's power over a citizen's fundamental right to equal treatment under the law. And it took 40 years to right that constitutional wrong. And it didn't just happen. That doesn't just happen. It took a team led by Dale Minami and some courageous young lawyers, some of who are in the audience here today. I'm looking at you, Don. I know you're out there somewhere. Don, could we ask Don to stand up too? Come on, man. Come on, man, we're waiting. And this courageous team of lawyers did not just return to the courtroom in anger. They returned to force the government to confront its own hidden misconduct. And they proved that when equal treatment under the law is tested, silence from lawyers is not neutrality. Silence from lawyers is not neutrality. It is acquiescence. It is surrender. And that legacy feels incredibly present to me today, and I know it's not just me in this room who feel that way. Today we're living through a profound test of our values, and equal treatment will not survive on autopilot. It depends entirely on whether lawyers have the courage to expose what is wrong, even when it's hidden by institutions that we admire. And I'm going to tell you a short story. This is the first time I've told this story publicly. I had to learn that lesson the hard way. Years ago, I wrote a letter that I knew could change my trajectory. It was a formal letter to the general counsel of an organization that I cared very deeply about. In it, I stated something that I knew would carry severe consequences. That the leadership of our organization had allowed corruption to take root, and that serious wrongdoing was being intentionally hidden from view. Institutions sometimes react to exposure by attacking the messenger, and I knew that writing that letter could come back to me. And I worried about my family. I had a 2-year-old at the time. And I worried about the attacks, the professional attacks that might follow. And they did follow. Defamatory messages spread. My reputation was questioned. For a long time, the fallout was suffocating. And sometimes I felt alone. And I wondered whether I'd made a terrible, terrible mistake. During that dark period, I distinctly remember someone pulled me aside and said that, you know, the one person who could stop the retaliation is Dale Minami. I did seek Dale's advice in addition to the advice of several of you in this room, and you know who you are. But I never asked Dale to step in and stop it. I didn't want to burden my friend, and I didn't want to drag more friends directly into the crosshairs of this conflict. But looking back, I realized I fundamentally misunderstood the assignment. Because courage is not standing up alone when something is wrong. Sometimes courage is letting other people stand there with you. And that crucible, I'll say, did change me. It's the reason why today that much of my practice is devoted to helping leaders navigate their own crises, whether they're facing retaliation or institutional pressure or attacks on their integrity. And these are the moments where the easiest path would be to let accountability slide and to stay quiet. And I know each one of you in this room has faced a moment where you felt that way, where it was easier to stay quiet. Well, what I tell my clients is this: you don't have to be fearless to do the right thing. All you have to do is decide that doing the right thing matters more than your comfort. Today, I've met so many young law students and volunteers, and I know there are a lot of young lawyers here in the audience with us today. And I know that they're watching how we as attorneys respond in this moment. They are watching to see whether we protect the constitutional values that define our profession. And my 9-year-old daughter is here in the audience with us today. Hi, Gia. And Gia is watching what we do. And if she happens to choose the law as a profession, which as of today seems to run a distant third to NASA engineer or scientist, but if she chooses the law, I want Gia to inherit a profession that we're all proud of, that doesn't bow when power overreaches, a profession that defends equal treatment under the law, not only when it's safe, but when it comes with serious personal consequences. And above all, I want my daughter and your children to inherit a profession that understands that our community's legacy teaches us that the arc of constitutional redemption is not bent on its own. It bends because the individuals in this room put their weight on it. The Constitution does not defend itself. Lawyers do. The American people do. And moments like this are exactly when it matters the most. Thank you very much.